views and opinions expressed on Explorers Secrets of the Truth or that of their guests or contributors are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. All information on Explorers Secrets of the Truth is provided in good faith. However, we make no representation or warranty of any kind, express or implied, regarding the accuracy, adequacy, validity, reliability, availability, or completeness of any information on this talk show or website.
From monsters and ghosts to otherworldly beings, join the explorers as they venture into the darkest realms, seeking the truth to what goes bump in the night.
Good evening and welcome to Explorers Seekers of the Truth, episode 82. Sit down, relax, shake off the normal world, and journey with us to the other realms of possibility. Tonight, I am joined by my best friend and co-host, Les Sinkavich. Come with us as we explore and seek the truth about this world. How are you doing this evening, Les?
Fantastic. You know what? I gotta say, I really love that Be Live. Now, I complain about Be Live every show, but I like the fact that they have integrated the intro into part of the media panel in the interface. So I don't have to worry about, is this link going to work or is it going to fail tonight? The fact that it just automatically plays now, I love it. I love it. So how are you doing?
Oh, good. We have a 9-second delay, so you know. I counted it while we were doing it.
That's interesting. I guess that's just there in case we have some sort of a major issue. Hey, Rick Russell, good to see you, buddy. You're commenting in through YouTube. Thanks for commenting and thanks for tuning in. So anyways, I asked how you doing.
I'm doing pretty good. It's, Tuesday. I'm a year older now. And
yes, happy birthday. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That wasn't the prod for a birthday thing, but
well, I have 2 years worth of birthday and Christmas presents sitting at the house for you, so we really have to get together.
Yeah, you drive south. My house is on the way.
That's true. I gotta get down. I haven't even been to the new house yet, so
no. You're gonna be like way down the list of visitors. Actually,
I know. I should have been the first.
Yep. Well, you don't drive down here ever to see me.
I'll make it a point. So you want me to do my spiel?
Yeah, why don't you tell everybody where they can reach us?
All right. You could reach us on Facebook and YouTube live every other Tuesday, as Rick has done so far tonight. You could comment under the show, and we'll see it on the back end, and we could interact with you guys live on the show. You could find us on our website, explorersgroup.com. You could find us on Twitter or X at Explorers Group. You could find us on all the major podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible, all those. Just search Explorers Seekers of the Truth and you'll find us. And while you're there, give us a 5-star review if you don't mind, to help us kind of rank up there, and follow us on Facebook and like and subscribe on YouTube. I think eventually we're trying and planning on getting on TikTok, which is a platform I'm really not familiar with, but I'm going to have my kids set that up for us and manage the social media stuff. So yeah, those are the outlets. We'll let you all know when we're on TikTok. If TikTok even exists in the future, I don't know, because there's talks of it being banned. So who knows?
Yeah, we're so technologically stunted growth here. We need your daughter to run that for us.
I know. And with the industry that I actually have my business in, you think I would know all this stuff, but
yeah, well, you think two guys that worked in marketing at different points would know the latest trends and how to use them, but
tell me about it.
At TikTok, I just don't understand it.
That's right. We're getting that. We're past that threshold. We're becoming old men now. We're
Yeah.
too cranky to learn anything new.
Yeah. I don't do videos all that well. So last week we talked about, a little bit of the history of the actual Saint Nick
Hmm.
and some darker stories that are attributed to him, and we also got into like the lore of Krampus.
Hmm.
So in an attempt to keep the spooky storytelling going, tonight we're going wanted to talk and tell a few more tales from the book that we promoted last time, Scary Book of Christmas Lore by Timothy Rayburn. Les has it there on the screen.
Yep.
But first, Les had a conversation with somebody the other day,
Mhm.
and the subject of these mysterious drones came up. So,
We can't not talk about that. I mean, we
yeah,
are a show of all things strange, and that is kind of a weird thing going on.
yeah. Um, just not. I already have the solution for it, but I'm gonna save that for a few minutes.
Right, right.
Yeah, all these strange reports coming out of like New Jersey, and then you've had several in like in fact one of our friends from high school lives in Gettysburg and posted a drone there flying around. A couple days before that, there was a report on one of the Gettysburg Facebook pages
Mhm.
of drones. And simple solution to those drones is the National Park Service is using drones at night to look for relic hunters.
Mhm.
New technology, large police department, being federal parks, it is one of the largest police departments in the US. They're going to have military surplus equipment. It's very easy for them to get trained up on it. It eliminates a lot of man hours out there driving around, walking around at night in the cold, wet, rainy conditions. You fly the drones over, you look for heat signatures in spots where there's not supposed to be any. You dispatch a unit out there. They find the people, they arrest the people, they charge them. You know, that's the situation there. Now, some of the other areas, let's be honest, it's like anything. It's copycat.
Mhm.
It's, oh, they're having all these things, so let's get a group of guys together with drones and fly them around out in some, Oregon or somewhere like California, and then, oh, well, the drones have been seen now in California. It's like, well, it's not exactly the same stuff.
Right, right.
Also, a lot of the videos you're seeing, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, are fake.
Mhm.
These drones shooting lights and like firing something off. It's always in a direct line. It's always in a sequence that you can tell is some kind of CGI. It's not anything that looks even slightly real.
Right, right.
But of course, I saw one yesterday or earlier today, yesterday. It was a radio station.
Mhm.
This guy is on Instagram, TikTok, and he's one of these, I told you all this conspiracy stuff. Well, of course, he's going to put out evidence that shows he's right. So he took a photo of a radio station
Mhm.
in a car, like on the display in a car, and then took a quote unquote, what would have been used in movies like Signs or something like that, the alien communication. The
Oh, yeah, yeah.
he put that audio into the video, shows that video of his, radio in the truck, says from a New Jersey radio station.
Mhm.
Except for dummy doesn't realize if you look at the display on the truck, it tells you what radio station it is.
Mhm.
It's not a radio station in New Jersey, it's a radio station in New York, which is on iHeart. There's no way they would allow that to go out over iHeart and their public airwaves
Right,
without it.
without making any mention.
Yeah. Like, oh, we had technical difficulties. Something in a background unit was playing. We're sorry. We apologize. So you have an iHeart broadcast internet system,
Mhm.
the local radio system, but the person, like I said, wasn't smart enough. He's saying it's a radio station in New Jersey. It's a radio station out in New York.
Mhm.
It's clearly displayed on the monitor. and it's clearly the sounds from a movie being played into the edited onto the video,
Right, right.
which I've learned isn't that hard to do. Uh,
It's not. Yeah.
not capable of doing it, but I've learned it's not hard to do. So stuff like that, you're getting these faked, enhance the drama, make a better news story, get hits on their videos and TikTok and stuff like that.
Right.
So sorry about that. My card just read. Um, so they're doing stuff like that to increase the traffic to their sites. I mean,
Right.
they're a monetized channel. They're doing this kind of stuff to get advertising dollars.
Right.
So that is a lot of it. Again, it's just like a Bigfoot video. You gotta sit down and really look at something and say, hey, I've heard that before. That noise they're playing there, I've heard before, and they're saying it's on this video.
Right.
Well, if you've heard that noise before, odds are process of elimination is it's an overlay.
Right.
It's somebody overlaid that audio into a video.
Right. Right.
And of course, anytime, and I'm not disproving conspiracy theories because I do enjoy a lot of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. And a lot of them have been,
Yeah,
come
a
true.
lot of them are
Yeah.
have come true or have elements of truth to them. But again, if you're following a rabbit hole network, you're going to get things that support what they've said.
Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
always going to be dots that you could connect, whether they actually do or not. A lot of times
Mhm.
they, of these, conspiracy theorists or eccentrics will
Mhm.
put dots or connect dots that aren't really even there to
Yeah.
kind of prove their point. But I just thought it was weird too because there's so many of these stories coming out. Well, you had mentioned that I talked to a buddy of mine. He called me out a couple days ago. Actually, it was on Friday when I was dropping some samples off at one of my clients. Um, I never even knew about any of this stuff, which was
Mhm.
bizarre because I mean we're into all this weird phenomena and all things strange. I never heard because I don't really watch the news or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I found it so weird because he's like, "Oh yeah, so what do you think about these drones?" And he's like, "People are saying that they could be aliens, they could be this." I'm like, "The hell are you talking about? Like what
Mhm.
drones?" He's like, "The ones that are over New Jersey and Pennsylvania and this and that, and are coming in from from the coast, off the ocean and stuff." He's like, "People are saying that uh some of them are coming up out of the water and this, that, and the other thing. Some people are saying that there's drones the size of SUVs and blah blah blah." And I'm like, I didn't hear any of this stuff. Now,
Mhm.
I think a lot of it is misidentification. People are seeing something that they're thinking is something else, but it actually is like a plane or some other kind of known aircraft. Um, and the the drone when people are saying, "Oh, aliens, aliens, aliens," and you look at the pictures and the videos and stuff of what people are seeing, it's clearly drones that are commonplace, that are like terrestrial drones. You know what I mean? The way with the amount of legs that come off of them, the amount of propellers, or you know what I mean, like the props and
Mhm.
whatnot, the lights and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, right away, I'm like, "Oh, well, they're coming out of the water." I mean, again, I didn't see any of this stuff, so I was thinking of those Tic Tac videos that have been released recently with those objects that were racing, faster than these fighter jets, and they're going in and out of the water. They're submerging, then they're resubmerging, and so that's where my mind went right away. But then when I started looking into it a little bit, I'm like, these are just your standard drones. Now, the ones that they're saying could be the size of SUVs. Now, I know China has been playing with different technologies where they have some drones that are able to be flown with people. It's like a one or two person drone that is probably the size of a small car. I don't know what the longevity is that they could stay in the air or anything like that, but who's to say that we're not already starting on some of the same technology? Because I think you have to have like a pilot's license. So you have to take all those courses and stuff and get certified. Um, supposedly that technology isn't in the US right now, or it isn't mass produced or available to the public. Um, so my thought process is, well, maybe it's a bunch of companies around here that are trying to get up with the times, or you know what I mean? They're starting their own, kind of like Tesla, you know what I mean? They got their electric cars, other people are starting to do electric cars. Well, now there's these manned drones that people could fly, or personal aircrafts that people could fly. Maybe they're testing them. Maybe this is, and because we have Homeland Security and our government, oh, it's nothing to worry about. This isn't a threat. This isn't a threat. Well, they're clearly not taking it seriously, so they probably already know what it is. So maybe
Oh,
these
they do.
companies, huh?
They do, and I'm going to tell you what it is right now after you finish.
Okay, good, good. So maybe these companies are already testing this crap, and it's all a smoke and mirrors.
Okay. Well, first of all, yes, the government knows what they are because they are the governments.
Mhm,
Most likely, these Tic Tac videos are also government test programs. If you take the ones that are being seen in New Jersey, they're XP5 fixed wing VTOLs UAVs,
mhm,
unmanned aerial vehicles. They have a 7-foot wingspan,
mhm. That's huge.
multiple engines.
Mhm,
So they are ours. That's why the government is not afraid. Otherwise, the government would think about it. If it was a foreign technology, there would be fighter planes in the air chasing these things.
yeah, yeah,
There has not been one report of seeing a military aircraft approach any of this stuff.
yeah.
So therefore, they do know what it is. They have in New York, um, at the Brooklyn Naval Yard, the NYPD did pick up a drone, a
Mhm.
rather large drone that was left sitting there. They have brought it in. It is in evidence. So that answers that part of it. Then I'll tell you what they're doing.
Please.
US NRC, US Nuclear Regulatory Commission, releases report confirming radioactive materials lost in transit shipping container arrived damaged and empty in New Jersey. They are looking for missing nuclear materials.
Oh,
They're
geez.
using drones because it's closer to the ground, easier. They're already available to the military. You're looking at an area where this all first started was near a military arsenal testing facility in New Jersey.
Hmm.
This train is missing materials. They are afraid of a dirty bomb throughout the holidays.
Mm.
If you look at some of the reports today over at one of the properties owned by the president elect, drones have been sighted in that area. They are checking for this missing material using drones. The reason the government hasn't said that's what they're doing, A, is they didn't want to admit originally that they had lost stuff. This story came out on December 16th. It was released, so yesterday. The story has not been tied to the drones except for on a few news network or channels like the Gateway Pundit
Mhm.
has put it out there that this is basically what they're doing. They're using UAVs with sensor systems that we've used in Afghanistan, Iraq, and in the Middle East to find nuclear materials. And that's why the government's not worried about it because they are looking for something with something they already know exists.
Hmm.
It's theirs. That's what they're doing. And, you know, the fact that the story got released makes me almost think that they found it. The drones will continue for a little while because it gives them great coverage
Mhm.
of, hey, all the other stuff that's going on got swept under the rug. I
Yeah.
guarantee you half the people I just read that report heading, half the people in our country don't know that report's over. Half the people in our country don't know that report exists.
Right.
The presidential pardons and stuff like that, everybody's focusing on what are these mysterious drones? I mean, you put in CNN, type in Fox News, type in News and News Nation. One of the first 4 stories is going to be mysterious drones now seen in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And I'm sure as it goes, if somebody is looking back on what train line that material came in on, I'm sure there was probably drones sighted in those areas that people probably thought, oh, somebody's out flying a drone. Great. And
Mhm.
never reported it, but it happened near one of the arsenals in New Jersey, starts there. New York, New Jersey, people are more social media savvy. They're posting stuff. People are, oh, what's this in the sky? They're posting the videos.
Right.
The thing about, like I said earlier, if the government thought these were foreign technologies, they would be in the air.
Right.
The governors have the ability to use the Air National Guard and stuff like that. They have private, law enforcement helicopters, state police helicopters. None of them are being used because they know what it is.
Right.
They've been read in on it. They're told not to leak it to the media until they know they have recovered their material. The fact that the story came out just got swept under the rug. Like I said, most people don't even know that story exists, yet it's
Right.
documented. Of course, it's swept under the rug because, well, what are these drones? Why aren't they doing anything about these drones? I mean,
Yeah.
the
And it's like,
president-elect
look over here,
already
look over
said,
here, not over here.
yeah, yeah. President-elect already said, we know what they are.
Yeah.
He came out and said that. So we know what they are translates into they're ours. We're looking for something we can't admit to losing. Government has this great thing where if we lose something we're not supposed to lose, or we think there's a threat of something happening, they're not going to tell you in advance. They're going to tell you once they know for sure.
Right.
The fact, like I said, the fact that the story got released that we lost something like that makes me think they have an idea where it is.
Hmm.
They've neither already found it, contained it, and moved it again, or they have isolated the area where it is and they're working on figuring out a strategy to take it.
Right.
I mean, the other option is the Jericho scenario where they allow it to happen. And then they use that for some kind of, insert conspiracy theory on overreaching martial law government.
Right.
But that's the simplest explanation. It's the one that makes the most sense. And it's also the one that's correct
Right.
because I said so.
Right. Right. Well, no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, everything that you had just described, I mean, there's stuff to back up and to corroborate that evidence. So I like I said before, it's definitely smoke and mirrors. I mean, there's all kinds of, like you said, the pardons, there's those brothers that are into the real estate with the celebrity sex trafficking ring. They have all that all going on. It's like, don't look over here, don't look over here, look over here, look over here. Hey, OS, good to see you, buddy. Coming in from Facebook there. So yeah. So
Yep.
to get off the drones, we'll move along on that one, unless there was anything else you wanted to add.
No, I solved it. I'm done.
Yeah, I
Moving on.
agree 100%. Like I felt it was good to talk about because it was a strange thing that's been going on, and it is very odd that all of a sudden all these things are being seen. And again, you have people, oh, it's aliens, it's China, it's this, it's that, and it's like, oh shit. But the fact that the government just didn't really seem to give a shit really kind of
Mhm.
made me agree with like what you're saying. It's like if they're not responding, because when those balloons were coming over, they scrambled fighter planes, and they were getting
Mhm.
shot down and blah blah blah. And this is like, oh no, it's nothing, it's no big deal. They didn't care. I mean, these are flying over some sensitive areas too, so that they wouldn't just let that happen.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
anyways, aside from the drones, you had sent me a video the other day, which I thought kind of transition nicely from last week's show because, as you had mentioned, we talked about the history of St. Nicholas, and you sent me a video that was saying they possibly found the grave of St. Nicholas. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So when St. Nicholas was entombed in Turkey, his body was later allegedly moved. So it was moved sometime during the Crusades, and they said it was moved to Italy, and then it was moved here, and it was moved there. And archaeologists this past month in Demir, Turkey, found a 2-meter limestone sarcophagus with a triangular shaped lid, which fits. It's buried in the area where they said his sarcophagus would be buried or was
Mhm.
buried.
Yeah.
It also fits the historical records for the appearance of his sarcophagus.
Mhm.
Now, they've only excavated the few layers around the lid. They haven't gotten down all the way around the box where they can see. What they're hoping for is to find an inscription to whose sarcophagus it is, and therefore, if they find the inscription, they'll know for sure it's Saint Nick's or somebody else's that just happens to have a very similar historical coffin sarcophagus, not even a coffin, to his, which would be odd saying it's buried in the area where his was buried and it's identical to the description of his,
But it's not.
and and it's in the right, levels of dirt for that area and that time frame.
Yeah.
So they may have actually found Saint Nick's grave.
That is pretty wild. I thought that was
Yep.
a really cool uh side note from last week's
Mhm.
show. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be funny if it actually was, if they looked into it and the inscription was, that of Saint Nicholas, and the only thing in there was a red Santa hat or something. It'd be so cool. I just want Santa to be real, is what I'm getting at.
Well, I mean, he was real,
Yeah,
and
yeah, but
he still is real.
in the hearts of many.
In reality, he's still real. His tradition is carried on for hundreds of years
True.
through, whatever methodology you want to use as the way it happens. It still happens
Mhm.
to this day.
Yeah.
So Santa Claus is real,
Yeah,
whether it's, the late Saint Nicholas or, you know, a modern day person.
that's true.
So,
I'm going with that. I love that.
yeah. So the first story we wanted to cover tonight isn't scary at all, really. It's kind of a historical point of view on a celebration from ancient Rome,
Mhm.
and it was called Saturnalia. And it was to honor the god Saturn, who, for the Roman version of the gods, which are just the Greek gods renamed, um, he was the god of agriculture and time.
Mhm.
So during this festival, and it was known to be a very wild and crazy festival that takes place in the middle of December, usually around the 17th, and runs through to about the 23rd, which, basically later kind of correlates with the time frame for the Christmas holiday.
Mhm.
And, originally it started out as like a very solemn banquet feast to honor Saturn. Then it becomes much more festive,
Mhm.
and this was so different in Roman culture because at this point, the slaves of the Romans were actually treated as equals to their masters.
Mm.
In fact, the masters took on the role of slaves, and the slaves took on the roles of the masters of the family of the house. So they were, there was a degree of freedom that they wouldn't usually have in in those days.
Mhm.
And they could actually openly disobey and talk back to their masters without any fear of punishment.
Huh. They
Now,
look forward to that celebration all year long.
I would say probably during that week without fear of punishment. I'm sure it probably came up later.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, you can't go around just like, if your boss says to me, be honest with me, and you're honest with him, he may take it well that day, but it's going to sit there for a while, and you're
Yeah,
going to
after
sit
the
there one
celebration,
day.
it's like, "Hey, remember?"
Yeah. Do you remember when you said that about me?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. You told me to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now it's time to pay
So,
for that.
yeah. So now, like, the thing was their dress codes were relaxed, and the slaves themselves were actually allowed to wear clothing that was not normal or was actually forbidden for them to wear,
Mhm.
including, and this is funny, including a cone-shaped, what they called a freedman's cap that normally only freed slaves were allowed to wear. And it was said even the Roman emperors at the time would put these on their heads from time to time.
Hmm.
Now, the whole week is, kind of basically a household role reversal, which kind of like overturned the norms of society at that point.
Mhm.
And like even to the point where a lot of the houses would pick what they would appoint one of the servants as the lord to rule over the week. And this person would be able to give absurd orders to the household, such as just think about ancient Roman culture, like they could trade insults with people who were of much higher standing. They could get naked and dance in the house or do whatever they wanted. And it was kind of more of the silly things. Now,
Mhm.
nudity in ancient Rome is not this big taboo thing it is here nowadays. It was
Oh, it's
quite
commonplace.
common.
Yeah.
So that wasn't something to be like, oh my god, that's so wrong.
Well, didn't they had, like, public baths and shit back then too, where
Mhm. Yeah,
everybody. Yeah.
yeah,
So
because you'd have like heated water bath and cold bath and stuff like that. So it was communal. It was like, hey, you pay so much, so many denarii. You go in, you could soak in the tub, get soap and whatever, clean up and freshen yourselves up. Also, you know, it was a social norm. It wasn't
yeah.
some weird taboo situation. But the whole thing was it was kind of the sillier the better. Like the
Mhm.
more ridiculous and funny it was, everybody got a big laugh out of it. You know, now darker side of that story though is in some versions of these events, the lord of the house, the servant that was selected the lord or whatnot, was usually or could possibly be killed at the end of the week.
Well, it's kinda like what you said, like, careful what you say or how
Mhm.
free or loose you got. Oof.
Yeah. And sometimes like they would take the dumbest one of the slaves and make that person the lord,
Mhm.
and then they would kill off their dumb slave
Oh,
at the end of
Jesus.
it. Yeah. Now, of course, that's the darker side of all this. And of
Right.
course it's Rome. As we've learned about ancient Rome, there are many dark, weird catacombs you can turn down in Rome.
Mm.
So how this kind of ties into like more of a Santa-y, Christmas type mythology or even lens to the traditions of modern Christmas is there were secret Santa, they weren't called secret Santa parties because Santa didn't actually exist yet.
Mhm.
But it was a type of party where everyone would bring gifts and they would randomly be given to all the participants. Um, some of the gifts were expensive items while others were just junk or joke items, but everyone was expected to accept their present with good humor.
Mhm.
So it's the old dirty Santa, mixed with the hey, I bought my wife this beautiful, bracelet, or my mom with her horrible Santa Claus singing dancing dolls that she for some reason every year just thinks is the greatest gag ever. I hope my mom doesn't watch this show ever because I will be in trouble. But I doubt she does. Um,
Right.
probably way past her bedtime. And if it's not, we'll put her in a home.
Oh, Jesus. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Well, I did try to kill my mom during birth, right? So I never heard the end of that. And seeing that it is only 2 days after my birthday, 45 years still haven't finished that job. I shouldn't say shit like that. My mom dies or something mysterious.
Oh god,
People be
yeah. Don't jinx it.
yeah. So, it was the Secret Santa type gift giving, just having fun. And like I said, some of it was like a way to maybe give somebody a very expensive present
Mhm.
without doing it openly, where it was kind of like, oh, we don't know who bought you that gold rope chain or that beautiful, cloak,
Yeah.
toga. So they would do stuff like that. And then also they would give out junk gifts, the stocking stuffers per se, where you get the, hey, here's a pack of razors and some shaving cream. Well, I don't use razors or shaving cream, but thank you.
Yeah, right.
Now, if you want to get into shit, is it my spring? Sorry. Hold on one second. I love having that cough button.
It's nice.
So when we talk about this, like I said, was a week-long, basically feasting. The drinking of alcohol was in heavy proportions.
Mhm.
Now, of course, if you think about it back then, it was probably safer to drink wine for the most part than it was to actually drink the water. So this was an overindulgence in drinking of wine and probably meads and other alcoholic beverages that were available in the Roman Empire.
Mhm.
And some of the stories note, great deals of public drunkenness, which even back then was against the law.
Mhm.
So you have stuff like that. And of course, if you have public drunkenness and copious amounts of alcohol and feasting and people getting gifts that they may not have appreciated or somebody saying something they didn't appreciate,
Mm.
fighting in the streets became commonplace. You just
Of
have,
course.
brawls between families, neighbors, different villages and stuff like that. So you have stuff like that going on. And a lot because of it being a role reversal in a lot of ways, the standards of like your acceptable behaviors of the time were kind of overturned during this week. So, like gambling.
Mhm.
Now, gambling was, very big in ancient Rome. Everything from horse races to, card games to
Gladiator matches.
gladiator matches. There was gambling. It just wasn't maybe a socially acceptable and somewhat against the law, but it was also very hard to police that because even the military was involved in gambling.
Yeah.
So what they would do a lot of times in their gambling was they wouldn't gamble money. Kind of like they might use peanuts or peanut shells, stuff like that, in
Mhm.
place of money. Therefore, it's not really money exchanging hands. So the law was kind of, it was a gray area in their laws, just
Mhm.
like poker chips. If
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
playing with, poker chips at a home poker game, even if you're in a state where poker is illegal and that chip is actually, part of a pot of money, it's very hard to say, like, oh, that stack of money over there corresponds to the amount of chips on the table and you're gambling. Well, no, you're playing cards. It's that
Right.
gray area you get into. So those laws were kind of relaxed and, often just not enforced because it was so hard to, navigate that. Like I said, even the military is involved in gambling. I mean,
Mhm.
the culture itself had a lot of gambling and all that just embedded into the culture. So that was kind of one of the things they allowed for. Now, this tradition does continue in the Middle East, um, and in even to the Middle Ages in Europe, when during the Christmas services, the working class people would appoint to engage in absurd activities in the you know world and ecclesiastical. Yeah,
I don't know. I know. When I
it's a
saw that
religious.
word, I'm like, we're just
Yeah,
gonna jump right over
yeah.
that.
So if I hear the word, I can say it. If I try to read it, I can't say it.
Mhm.
Um, so young members of the church would often be appointed the boy bishop and have power over their elders and seniors, at least for a day or two. And of course, at a certain point, church officials, kind of frown on it because it does have its roots in a pagan festival.
Right, right, of
But
course.
a lot of times, like, the towns and stuff like that would allow for it because it was a way to blow off steam and just let the kids, it's the dark time of the year, it's cold. Let the kids have some fun, blow off some energy, get them tired before bed.
Yeah.
So that was a, Saturnalia.
That's very good, very good. OS is wanting you to try and repeat that word again. I
Which
don't
one? I
think you
don't.
could OS because I don't even know what the hell it is. But you had mentioned The Lord of Misrule. So I was searching anybody who has Disney Plus. I was searching for a movie the one time called The Beast Within, which stars, it's a British film, and it stars Kit Harington. And for most of you, you know him as Jon Snow from the Game of Thrones. I've After I had watched that movie, there was things that you may also like this, and one of them was a movie called Lord of Misrule. And to go back to the Beast Within, well, yeah, I was given that other suggestion while I was watching that movie. So in The Lord of Misrule, it's a 2023 film whose
Ecclesiastical.
premise goes, when the daughter of the town's new priest goes missing during the harvest festival, a desperate search begins, uncovering the town's dark history and resurfacing tales of a mysterious malevolent spirit that demands sacrifice. It was a really, really good film. I highly recommend watching it. And it was a little slow, a little dry, like most British films go, but it was still very good. Um, I highly recommend both films, actually. And to expand a little bit more on this celebration that Chad was talking about, Saturnalia or whatever, however you pronounce it. Um, it's the festival began as a one-day event to sacrifice a pig at Saturn's temple and to eat it at a public feast the next day. However, its popularity grew and the festival was then expanded over time and eventually became a week-long celebration, like Chad said, from the December 17th to the 23rd. And the main significance of this celebration was that Saturnalia is a midwinter festival that marked the solstice. So when Romans believed farms and orchards would soon be fruitful. So it was, again, like Saturn was the god of agriculture and farming, and it was, for a bountiful harvest. Um, so yeah, that was Saturnalia.
Ecclesiastical.
Ecclesiastical. There we go. I don't even want to try and pronounce it the way I thought it was pronounced.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, when I looked at it in my notes there, I'm like, I'm not
Yeah,
trying that.
yeah.
I'm just jumping
So
right over that part.
an ecclesiastical world. There you
Yeah.
go. There you go, OS. You got it. It was repeated. Um, so like Chad said before, we're telling stories from the Scary Book of Christmas Lore by, where is it at?
There you go.
Tim Rayburn. So
Come down a little bit.
here,
Yeah. No. Go right there is good. Thank you.
there we go.
Right there.
Yeah. So pretty cool little book. You get at Barnes and Nobles or Amazon. So the next topic we're going to talk about, I wanted to try and find some more that were monstery kind of creatures. Um, so the next one is a little bit of a darker tale. Um, and it is, again, I'm going to try not to butcher this one because it is another odd word. The Kalakansari, and that's the subject matter, the creature, and the place of origin is the Balkans and Turkey. And I will read the story from the book. The Kalakansari, or Kalakansor Oi, are truly terrifying. They only show up for the 12 days of Christmas season, but they can be anything from a nuisance to downright dangerous. Their appearance varies. In some accounts, they are obviously related to the satires of Greek myth, being half man and half goat, but they can also take on other forms, like having boar tusks, red eyes, long tongues, horses' hooves, long tails, and a dozen of other strange and scary features. Excuse me. They also like to gnaw on worms, snakes, and other ground dwelling creatures as snacks. Some say they are huge, but more often they are described as rather small. though that doesn't take away from their capacity for mischief and evil. And I actually have a little picture of what these little guys look like. So I'll leave this picture up as I read the story. So they're known by different names in different regions. In Siberia, they're the Karakonzula, and they lie in wait during the night of Christmas, hoping to attack those who stray outside. It was better to remain home and safe. And in Bulgaria, the Karakonjul likewise hide in the dark, hoping to catch the unwary. In Albania, the horrific Kakuth are actually reanimated corpses that prowl in the dark nights in early January, laden with chains and said to have a breath that can kill. In Turkey, the Karakonkolas of the Anatolia are described as being hairy and menacing. And in holiday folklore, the Kalakanzori are known for trying to break into houses and then destroy everything inside. They might crawl down chimneys, sneak through keyholes, and or enter through back doors. They would then cause damage, steal food, and if they were lucky, try to steal children too, kind of like the Krampus, especially those who were born on Christmas Day. Ways to thwart them included making sure that everything in the house was secure, scattering flour on the ground to track uneven footprints, and burning a Yule log in the fireplace at night to prevent them from coming down through the chimney. Even better was to burn old shoes in the fireplace so the stench would keep them away. Another tactic was to put sweets in various places inside and outside the house to tempt them into leaving everything else alone. Some traditions recommend putting sausages and donut-like pastries out on the roof. The Kalakanzori love one thing. If they love one thing more than worms and snakes, it's sugar. These creatures could make life hell for people during the Christmas season, and the only respite was the coming of dawn, for they couldn't stand sunlight. And yet, that might not be enough to guarantee protection, for some legends suggest that anyone born during the 12 days of Christmas might be at risk of transforming into a Kalakanzori when they became adults. In order to prevent this, a baby born during this time was to be bound up with garlic and have their toenails singed. In folklore, the Kalakanzori aren't especially bright, which might also afford everyone some protection from their antics, but overall, they are everything from a pain in the butt to a genuine threat during the holidays, and all care needs to be taken in order to ensure that one's house is not trashed. That is the Kalakanzori, and I'll take their little picture down.
Oh, I bet I don't get a picture.
Huh?
I don't get a picture.
You do, yeah. When
Oh,
you
I do?
read your next topic, yeah.
Oh. Well, now, to expand further on that story, you mentioned the Karakunculus
Mm-hmm.
of Turkey. These creatures from Turkish folklore.
There's your picture.
Oh, wow. Those are scary looking.
They are. It looks more Asian, doesn't it?
I was going to say it looks more like a Chinese, or old Japanese represent.
Yep. It almost looks like remember the pictures of the Yaren?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah.
But supposedly this is what it is from Turkey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, limited art types, back then.
Still
So,
creepy. Still creepy.
yeah, these Turkish folklore creatures are dark, hairy, and frightening. Like a Turkish Krampus, they appear most often during the 10 days of the Zamher, a time between December 22nd and January 21st, which in Turkey is the coldest time of year.
Mm.
Now, they are related to the, how did you say that earlier? The
Kalakanzari.
Kalankanzari?
Mm-hmm.
We really got to pick subjects that we can say the words.
It's funny, dude, because when I was looking through the book, I was looking I was looking at the pictures first. And I'm like, I like that picture looks great. I want to do this story. And then I started reading or writing it down. I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce that, but we're going to give it a shot anyway.
So what the important differences here, though, are that they are usually taller than the other versions of these holiday pests. They are covered in hair that is thick and dark. and they don't seem to be as dim-witted or easily placated as their Balkan cousins. They revel in deception, riddles, and mind games, all intent with doing harm. Now, one of the stories I had heard about this was sometimes they'll kind of be out on a street, like in the dark corners of a town or a village, and then just ask a passerby a simple question or give them a riddle to solve. And if the individual gives the wrong answer, then they risk being killed.
Hmm.
So they're rather like the Sphinx of the ancient Greek mythology.
Hmm.
And there are important details one answer has to contain the word black.
Hmm.
And the creature might ask multiple questions before the person is free to go. So even if the individual messes up one answer, they're likely to be struck dead in the presence of the Caraconchulus, and then it will move on to find another victim. So I had heard this story about this was supposedly in modern day Turkey,
Hmm.
where it was around this time of year and it was in Istanbul or somewhere like that. And this person had gotten off a train and was like walking down the street, like up, into town. And there was this person like standing with like not like a hoodie on, but like some kind of cover over its head. And it was
Hmm.
standing in like on the street light, but we're in the shadow of the street light. And they started like, as the person was walking, they started talking to them,
Hmm.
the thing standing in the light, and they just started asking them like random like questions.
Uh-huh.
And in the beginning, it just sounded like somebody trying, like almost like a drunk person who saw somebody and just wanted to start a conversation.
Yeah.
And then it moved into like the riddles. And basically, the person was like dealing with it, and it must have answered one of the questions wrong
The creature.
because no, the person that was
Oh.
the creature was asking the questions, and the person must have answered it wrong because the person basically came to the next morning, like on the outskirts of the city
Uh-huh.
with like its coat missing, its like shoes were gone. So basically, like it like kind of like stole its clothing for being out in the elements, and luckily
Mm.
the person lived. But that's the last thing they remember was getting off the train and this person standing by a street light, and they said it was a tall, thin person,
Yeah.
and it just started asking them like, and even the person said it just seemed like somebody being friendly at first, like
Yeah.
they were the only two people around, and things started, person started talking to him, and then they said the next thing they remember was like after a couple minutes of conversation, they don't remember anything, and then they just remember waking up on the outskirts of town or outskirts of the city.
Jeez.
And it's kind of weird because these creatures are also well known for being deceptive in other ways. One of the most notorious is to lie in wait outside of someone's home and call out the inhabitant's name in the voice of a friend or a family member.
Mm.
And if the homeowner opens the door to answer, the Caraconchulus will lure them out and place the unfortunate person in a hypnotized trance. And once they've done this, they will leave the victim out in the elements.
Hmm.
In the cold and sometimes snowy winter of central Turkey, this could be a death sentence.
Mm.
And some people must be very careful. I keep hitting that spring on my mic stand when answering the door in the winter unless they are absolutely certain who is really there.
Mhm.
And related mystery monsters to the Germacook or
Germacoki.
Germacoki.
Mhm.
Yeah, boy. That's a Germakoki over
He's a
there.
germaphobe.
Yeah, he's very German and he's very phobic. Or Mountain Man is said to stalk the Lands region in northern Turkey near the Black Sea, and much like the Caraconchonculus, it is tall, covered with hair, and dwells in the mountains and hills. Legends of this mystery monster extend to nearby Georgia, where he is said to be a truly evil cannibal. Both of these winter monsters bear a rather striking resemblance, if you think about it, to both Bigfoot and the Yeti. They're tall, hairy inhabitants of remote regions. But whereas researchers in cryptozoology tend to think of these as more famous, unknown, and as in different animals, these Turkish mysteries seem to be just generally evil at heart and take delight in causing harm during the winter months. So where you have Bigfoot and Yeti are more kind of stay away from people, or some stories where they gift stuff to people and stuff like that. There's some kind of like almost human-esque level of good-heartedness to them, where
Yeah.
these Turkish monsters or creatures just generally seem to be some kind of evil presence that comes forth at this time of year.
Hmm. Well, it's funny because they do bear a striking resemblance to the Bigfoot and Yeti in that artwork. Like we had mentioned before, it looks very
Mhm.
much like those old Tibetan paintings of the Yaren or the Yeti. And it's kind of funny because it reminds me of the story that we talked about my old neighbors over at the farm when
Mhm.
she and her daughter were down feeding the animals, and the daughter heard the mom calling her name, the mom heard the
Mm.
daughter calling her name, and
Yep.
then they looked out into where they have their sheep and their yaks and stuff because they actually raise yaks. They said they saw this creature crouched down. They thought it was one of the sheep until it stood up. And I thought sheep squatch, which is
Mhm.
the story from West Virginia on Monsters and Mysteries in America. I think that's the show that they definitely showcased sheep squatch. Um, Now, what does OS say? Is that Falk War? Did you talk about right now for Norwegian and German folklore? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
No. And Cindy, yes, you are very, very late. You're in trouble, lady. But I'm glad you're here. You're tuning in way an hour into the show. But you're here. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. But yeah, it kind of reminded me very much of what my friends were telling me about it that they saw on their property. And again, like we were talking about on one of our previous shows, the Wendigo kind of mimics.
Yeah, I was gonna say that just triggered that in my head too, was the like it's odd that, and I mean I'm sure there's probably some kind of rational reason why a lot of these, because you think the Wendigo is a wintertime drawn out through starvation,
Hmm.
turning to cannibalism, and the mimicry of voice, the mimicry of, the voice of loved ones or family members and friends. And a lot of these cultures share that piece of it where it's like these things are, larger than humans. They're this, they're hairy, they're dark hair, brown hair, red hair. But they all seem to come back to this: hey, by the way, if you hear somebody call your name and you're not absolutely sure it's the person you think they are, it's probably not them. It's probably one of several um, different culture, different name, but similar attributes.
Yeah.
So that's also one of those things, like we had talked that one time about like dragons and stuff like that, where all these cultures have some kind of reference to this voice mimicry.
Hmm.
Now, like I said, there's probably some rational reason. It's probably some kind of internal human fear that these original writers of these stories honed in on, and the oral folklore people, had honed in on like, hey, I got to make this thing scarier. Well, what's scarier than something that can mimic you
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
mimic your mom or mimic your friend?
Yeah. Or
And
a baby,
yeah,
out in the middle of the woods. Yeah.
yeah, and draw you into this even worse situation. So, I mean, it could rationally be that, but it's very odd that a lot of these creatures, even accounts of Bigfoot crying like a baby or making baby noises,
Hmm.
stuff, or just, making sounds, or that whole, growing up in Appalachia, don't whistle at night.
Yeah.
Don't whistle
Yeah.
outside at night,
Yep.
which I am terrible. I do that constantly, and I
Dude,
probably should stop
same.
doing that because I
Same.
whistle for the dogs every time I go outside.
Yep. Dude, when I walk from the house out to the studio, I whistle on my way through, even if it's at night and stuff like that. And I mean,
Mhm.
there's the woods right back behind the house, and you don't
Yeah.
know what's out there. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, there's so many times I've come out and there's a herd of like 8 or 9 deer right behind my garage because
Mhm.
we have a compost pile back there, and
Yeah.
they're out there eating. I mean, you don't know what the hell's back there. I mean,
Mhm.
there's
You
8
whistle
deer
and a
standing
bear.
back there, and you don't see them. You know,
Yeah. You whistle and a bear's gonna come walking up to you like, "Hey, what's
right,
up?
right,
Heard you
exactly.
whistling. You wanna talk?"
Yeah. And Cindy, I'm not surprised you didn't get the live notification because technical difficulties are notorious with our show. You know that. So you don't need to be sorry. We're just very, very glad you're here. But you're gonna have to Rick beat you to being the first commenter today. So you'll have to be the first one next time. And also too, one thing I noticed when I'm setting up the shows through Be Live, um, Facebook used to put it as a post that would automatically let you know that the show is going live. Now it sets it up as an event and it's in a completely different area. It's even harder for us to try and share and whatnot to get the show more popularity or in front of more people. So I'm not surprised that you didn't get that notification. So
Okay.
no apologies needed.
I'm gonna answer OS's question there. Researching, have you ever heard your name called out while out there? I've never had it while I was out in the woods. That wasn't somebody actually calling my name that I was with.
Mhm.
But several times over the years at the old house that we lived in, we would hear somebody neither call Les's name or
Mhm.
my name from the downstairs. Like we stayed on the second floor of the house. The downstairs was kind of like we had a little music area where we would jam in, weight room, you
Kinda
know,
just the main walk-in
yeah,
collect all
just
room.
yeah. And at night we would hear like I stayed on the front side of the house. The upper floor did like a big L. And I stayed in the far corner and then Les stayed on this far end of it.
Yeah, I was
And
right above the back staircase
he
and
was
the
above
room
the
where
back
everybody
staircase.
yeah.
Yeah, I would be to if you're looking at the front of the house, my bedroom was to the right, but my windows would have been over the front staircase.
Mhm.
And several times over the year or 2 that we lived there, we would hear somebody, and a lot of times it would sound like Les's little brother
Yep.
or our one friend Joe.
Mhm.
And you'd hear him from like downstairs because there was 2 sets of stairs. There was this master staircase and a servant staircase. And you would hear, like I would hear in the front of the house, somebody at the back door that would sound either like Les's little brother or our friend Joe.
Yep.
You'd hear him go, Les, Les.
Mhm.
And then it would wait a little bit and you'd hear, Chad, Chad. And by that point, Les and I would usually have come out of our bedrooms. I would come around the corner. I would look at his bedroom door and I'd see him looking up the hallway towards my room. And I would look at him and we'd be like,
Did you hear
did,
that?
did you hear your name? No, I heard your name. Who did it sound like? And we would like run down the stairs. Like one of us would run down the front steps and around, and the other one would run down the back steps, and there was never anybody there.
Nobody, ever. Well, the scariest
Now,
one, though, is when we heard somebody calling my name. We heard the steps coming up the servant steps,
mhm,
like
yeah,
footsteps, and then they right when you got to the top of the 2 staircases, there was a landing, and straight across from that was where our kitchen was, and, you heard somebody come up the steps and then, like, open the drawer, rifle through
mhm,
silverware, and
That's
walked
that
back
classic
towards
sound of a
what's that?
the classic sound of a knife being
Yeah,
pulled
like that
out of like a
shing.
silverware door, that shing,
Yep, yep,
and
and then walk
heard
back
it.
towards my bedroom door.
Yeah,
And I
that
remember
place
I
was
saw the doorknob moving, rattling,
mm,
moving, and I terrified,
yeah,
terrified. But I get up and I'm walking over and I grab the doorknob, rip it open, and then you were standing out there, but you
yeah,
weren't close enough to have the doorknob. And
yeah,
I'm like, "Were you just fucking with my door?" And you're like, "No, dude, I came down because I heard
yeah,
somebody in the kitchen." Oh god,
mhm,
I'll never forget that.
yeah.
And the
Now
the the closet in that bedroom that I was staying in would
that we had to move your
constantly
bed
open.
in front of the door?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It used to open in the middle of the night on its own, and we
yep,
finally just decided to throw your bed in front of it one
yep,
night and
yep.
be like, "Screw it, we'll move it to get your stuff out
'Cause,
in the
that
daytime."
door, it closed, it was solid. It's not like you
Mhm.
would push it, but you could feel a little bit of tension or resistance pushing back. It was a
Yeah.
normal door, close it,
Mhm.
lock it, or latch it, and in the middle of the night, you just hear the like the disengaging of
Of the
the
lock.
notch. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then and it wasn't just like a slow creak, it opened.
Yep. Now, there was one time at band camp, no, just um, where I was with somebody in a house, and we both heard somebody. I swear it was the voice of the other person that was in the house with me, except for it was coming from a room off to my left.
Mhm,
When the person then came out of one of the rooms further down from the dining room to my to my left, but much further down this house,
mhm.
and came out, looked at me and said, "What did you want?" And I went, I just heard you call my name."
Yeah,
And the person said, "No, I heard you ask me something." And I'm like, "No, I heard you." And they're like, I didn't say anything." And I'm like, "No, what I'm telling you is I heard you. It may not have been you, but I clearly heard your voice from I was in the main living room. It's a bedroom off to the left and then a bathroom in that room that doesn't connect to the rest of the house.
mhm.
I heard the person in the bathroom like I've heard this other person speak from that bathroom before.
Yeah,
This person was down through the dining room into the kitchen and basically the backside of the house, and they came out and heard me say something, and I heard them crystal clear call my name.
yeah.
So, I've never heard it in the woods or out researching anywhere like that.
Mm,
I've had that weird when we were at the Daniel Stewart farm, and I think it was just you and I. It might have been the first time we went there and we were doing the EVPs, and I was walking around with the recorder, and I
mhm.
heard somebody talking in like, somebody up on my shoulder,
Yeah,
like, whisper into my ear, and it was like the person's was, like, right here, I heard it, but I couldn't make out what they were saying.
right.
But I've never had it, like, out in the woods, like I said, the only times out in the woods have been people I actually, like, either, like, hunting or, like, hiking with or something like that, where we would, "Hey, I wanna go over here and look," and then you'd hear somebody call your name off from a distance, and then you'd kind of figure out where it was, and you'd see your buddy come down that trail. But
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had that. I mean, I've had weird experiences going up to Hedge Cat and stuff like that up in above, Tumbling Run, which
That area alone is creepy.
yeah, which we gotta get with Kevin and go up there sometime.
Yes, absolutely. And Cindy brings up a really good point too, that whatever these are would have to be close enough and around frequently enough to understand and repeat names or voice tones and stuff like
Mm,
that to mimic or replicate that. And that's a really good point. I was like, how long have they been there and how frequently are they around? I don't know. I don't know about you, but I don't know if it's the time of the year and because like, the holidays, although holidays are supposed to be joyous, love, happiness, abundance, and time together, it's also dark times too.
mhm.
and it's also a time of year that plays heavy on people, like anxieties and stresses, finances, lost family members. That I've been having some weird things happening lately.
Well, if you
Like,
remember, was it a week or two ago you and I were talking, and I said, did you ever feel like some of the things we cover, like covering them for some reason brings them more to the forefront? And I'd ask you if there was ever any episodes that we did that like stuck with you.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's this time of year. I think it was post Halloween that we had that conversation. So it's like not even the whole like, oh, it's Halloween, you're supposed to be scared at this time,
Yeah.
right?
Or the veils to there.
Yeah. So I would say like in the last few months, certain things have become more prevalent. Now, of course, with like the algorithms, doing research for the show, I use my phone, I use my computer, I use books and stuff like that. And I'll
Yeah.
look up other books like on the topic to see if they're available anywhere, close by that I could get them. So I'm sure it pulls the algorithm is looking, going, oh, Wendigo, Skinwalker, you've looked up these words and da 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 da. So it's going
Yeah.
to videos like on YouTube, the reels and stuff, or whatever they call them on YouTube, the mini video things, they'll
Shorts.
shorts. Bunch of them like will be a bunch of more Native American or Appalachian,
Yeah.
and it will be the like on those storylines of like Wendigos or shape shifting creatures out in these parts, or the skinwalkers in the native culture and stuff like that. And like sometimes just sitting here, because my office faces the woods on three sides, the studio here.
Hmm.
um Now I can see the road and stuff behind me too, but sometimes just sitting here, it's like I'll sit here and I'll look off into the woods and I'll just have that like weird, creepy sensation of like,
Something's watching you.
is something looking back at me from out there? So yeah,
Yeah.
I think, even though it is the Christmas, the joyous, the, abundant, happy family time, I think sometimes because it is so dark so quick and
Well, yeah, it's the long, dark cold time of year.
yeah, so I think sometimes, yeah, it does kind of hit you a little more at this time of year. I think that's like, like Halloween is the beginning of all that,
Mhm.
but then you kind of like, oh, well, Halloween's over. Now it's time for Thanksgiving. And then it's Christmas, but it's getting darker. It's, colder. And you start to look out there and you're just kind of, and the fact that everything is like dead.
Yeah.
Like in the summertime, I look out and I can see 2 foot into the woods. In the wintertime, I can see 25, 30, 40 yards into the woods if I look directly out the window in front of my camera here.
Mhm.
I mean, I can see the drop down and the incline of the next hill, 50 yards from my window here.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it just plays on that. Like everything's dead. It's cold. It's dark. There, you delve into these topics and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't be reading that this late at night or
Uh-huh.
watching this or,
Well, it's kinda like we were talking about before too about manifesting.
oh God.
No, maybe not like I was saying before, but we're reading about it, we're
Mhm.
watching stuff about it, uh, we're constantly talking about it. We go to places that are
Mhm.
notorious for this. Are we drawing this in unknowingly, like, unconsciously, because we're constantly thinking about it? Is our subconscious calling out or calling in things around us that we're unaware of?
Mhm. Well, what's that saying, "If you stare into the darkness long enough, it'll eventually stares back at you," or something?
Mhm. Something
So,
like
I
that,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, I might be butchering that one, but somewhere along those lines. So, yeah, I'm sure you kind of put out that energy if these things are out there,
Mhm.
they start to, you know, I hate to say it, but smell it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's like you're putting out the beacon, you
yeah,
know?
they see that light off in the distance or whatever. They smell the scent in the air, and
Mhm. Well, I had a couple things happen recently that, and I don't wanna stray too much long because we still
mm,
have 2 other topics to cover, and we're well past the hour. Um, 2 things happened to me recently. One, I was lying in bed, and I could look out from my right out of my bedroom, door into my daughter's room, my oldest daughter's room, and I wasn't it's not like I was sleeping and I woke up. I had just gone into bed and I was lying there kind of playing around with my phone for a little bit, TV's on. I put my phone down and I roll over to try and get comfortable. I have the TV playing for background noise, and my daughter's TV was on, so there was light in her room, and then mine was on, so it was still projecting some light. I saw a tall, black mass figure, kind of looked like the profile of the Grim Reaper. For lack of better terms. Walk from there's like a nook area in my daughter's room, uh, past the dresser that's straight through in my line of sight, and then my daughter's bed is on the, left side. It went from right to left, and then my daughter has like a quilt picture of a horse that my mother-in-law had made for her, and it's kind of like shadowy there because of the curtain and everything, and this picture thing was darker. So this mass and I'm telling you, I saw something moving, but it didn't walk. It just kind of it glided, and it was tall, hood, body shape, just kind of hovered through and hit that shadowy area and didn't go past that to the next area that was lit. It just kind of
mm,
dissolved in, and it was so weird because I'm watching this. I'm awake. I'm coherent. It wasn't like I said. I wasn't in a deep sleep and just kind of woke up out of it or anything like that. It passed from one side of the room over, and as soon as it hit that shadowy area, it like basically just morphed into it, dissolved into it, and didn't go any further. That was weird.
mhm,
Then the second thing, a few nights later, um, I saw like now my daughter's TV wasn't on, mine was. So her room was dark, the hallway was dark, my TV was on, and I was lying on my back, but out of my peripheral, I saw movement, and I look over because I'm watching a show. You know what I mean? Again, it
mm.
was I had just gone up to bed. My wife was in the bathroom, and I saw movement, and I look over, and I swear to you, it looked like my wife kind of crouched down, and it looked like she was looking at me smiling, and she crouched down and, like, almost like she, like, was crouching down on the floor to crawl around the bed
Mm,
to her side, which I'm like, "Why would she do that?" You know? Because I swear it looked like she was crouching down looking at me smiling. I could hear something moving,
mm.
like, shuffling, and literally and, like, I'm starting to sit up, and she walks in. 'Cause I'm saying, "What are you doing?" And she walks in, she goes, "What?" I'm
Wow.
like, "I swear to God, you just came in the room, but you came in crouched down and started crawling." And she's like, "Yeah, no. No, I didn't." I'm like, "Well, yeah, clearly you didn't because now you're I'm like, "Wow, that was trippy."
Yeah.
Like I said, I saw it, I heard, like, like when you're crawling on the carpet,
Mhm.
it's like scurrying, and then literally I'm sitting up, "What are you doing?" And then she's like, "What?" I'm like, wow. Weird. I don't
Did
know.
you look at the other side of the room to see if there was something over there, or
No, because she was walking in
mhm.
while I'm talking, and she's walking around, so she's going around the bed already. So
Huh,
if something was there, she would have seen it because she's like, "No,
yeah.
no, definitely wasn't me." And she's walking still at that point. I'm like, "What the hell?" OS, property history. I don't know much. There is a historical society in town. So ironically, somebody from the historical society came to my house over the summer with a picture of my house when it was first built in the late 1930s. Um, my house was really the only one where it stands right now, and then up later, a couple decades later, there were smaller homes built that were more like summer cottages because I guess this was more of like the vacation side of
Mm.
town. My house was a farmhouse because it was all farm behind us, up into where the high school and everything is too. Um, but that's about all I know about the house. And as far as the people who lived here before me, they were off the from what I understand, again, I don't know, this is just from what my neighbors and stuff were telling me. The people who lived in this house previously, or the last occupants, were straight off the boat immigrants from Germany, the mother and father. They lived in New York. I think the dad was a state trooper in New York. The mom, I don't know what she did. They had 2 kids, a daughter and a son. They moved from New York down here. The father commuted back and forth. He was a woodworker, and because like a lot of the stuff in my house, Chad, there's like all like the kitchen is like tongue and groove wood. He put
Mhm.
these like wooden beams across. It's actually really nice.
Mhm.
But even like he
Beautiful
did
house.
he did a tall wainscoting throughout the living room. He redid like the one whole wall of my living room is a mantle with a big gas fireplace underneath it, with 2 stained glass windows on either side. So this dude that was his hobby. Supposedly he died in the house. I don't know where.
Mm.
Their oldest son, or their son, I should say, would go back and forth from Europe to the United States, and I guess he was back in Germany for a while, and I guess he ended up with kidney disease or something, some kind of disease. Came home, they had him living in the attic of my house. And I think they were going to be building I'm in the studio above my garage right now, which is detached from my house. And when I first moved in, you could see it was studded and prepped for being turned into a living space. I'm assuming they were preparing it for their son who was back home living with them. Well, he ended up dying in my attic. And I guess he was a heavy smoker too, because a lot of the stuff up there, like there was a ductless air conditioning unit, and it is yellowed from cigarette smoke and
Mm.
everything. My house doesn't smell like cigarette smoke, but I guess this guy smoked up there, so he died up there. Then the mom, one of my friends, actually, he watches our show a lot. My friend Ryan, they lived across the street. Now his wife's mom lives there across the street. But when they were living across the street, the mom had a stroke in what is now my bedroom, and apparently she was a bit of a hoarder, and it was very difficult to get to her. She was pinned between the bed and the wall and a massive amount of junk. So she stroked out, fell, and was pinned there until somebody realized that she wasn't responding to calls or anything, I guess, and they ended up coming in because my friend, he's actually an doctor. Um, he came over to see if he could assist with anything, and he saw that she was up there. I think she ended up in a nursing home. I don't know if she's still alive or not. So yeah, there were some very strange things that happened when before my office was finished, or my studio. I was in what is now my daughter's Madison and Kaylee's room. They share a room now. I was in that room, and you would hear stuff in the attic moving. I thought it was the cat. You would hear, and I at my old house in Shenandoah, I would hear this same sound, like if you're playing pool, like a pool ball it sounded like it landed on the floor, like you hear a doom, doo, 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 like it hit and bounced a couple times, and then like a ball rolling.
Mm.
I heard that a few times in this house and my old house, and my neighbor at my old house actually used to ask me, "Do you have a pool table in the attic? I keep hearing like pool balls." I'm like, "No, I don't have a pool table. I don't have anything up there." You know? So I heard it again here. My wife has heard it, my kids have heard it. Um, you would hear like footsteps, and I would think it was the cat, and I'd look over and she'd be laying in the doorway. Just
Mhm.
weird stuff. And I remember when Maddie, my middle daughter, when she was little, she was upstairs. Like that kid had like no fear. She could go anywhere, nothing bothered her. And my wife and I were sitting downstairs in the living room. We could hear Maddie up in her room talking.
Mhm.
And she's having a little conversation. When she was little, she would say, instead of saying, "Who is there?" she would say, "Who, buddy?" So she's sitting there playing. And then all of a sudden she got quiet and she's like, "Who, buddy's up there?" Couple seconds go by. She's like, "Who, buddy's up there?" And I was like, "What the fuck?" So I'm like, "Hey, Beanie, what are you talking about, honey? What's going on?" And she's like, "There's somebody up there." I'm like, "Okay, come downstairs. Come downstairs with mom and dad now." So she would hear stuff. I remember, and I'm sure I've said this story on the show before. Before we were officially moved in, I was in the house because the realtor used to let me come in and out just to check on things to make sure no water or anything was getting in before everything was finalized. Um, so I was in the house and I went in the basement and I heard somebody walking through the kitchen. And no, I heard somebody coming down the steps. That's right. Cause my wife, when she goes up and down the steps, she doesn't just walk up and down the steps like a normal person. She like quickly goes up and down the steps. So it's like, so it's like rapid pace. So I heard
Mhm.
somebody coming down the steps, walk through the living room into the kitchen and open and close cabinets and stuff. And I remember yelling up, I'm like, "Are you up there?" And I didn't hear anything. And then I heard a cabinet door close. And I said, "Hun, are you up there?" I don't hear anything. So I come up out of the basement into the kitchen and I look out the back door and I could see her sitting in the car with the two girls because we only had the two at the time.
Mhm.
And she's in the car with Lily and Maddie. And I'm like, holy shit. That was weird.
Yeah.
Lots of things happened. But anyways, there were 2 people that I know of that supposedly died in the house. I don't know 100% if it's true. I don't have any documentation or paperwork or anything like that. I'm just going off of what my neighbors told me, what the plumbers told me, what my friend told me. You know what I mean? Just word of mouth kind of thing. But yeah, there was 2 deaths that I know of in the house, and like I said, the mom had a stroke, but she didn't die.
Now, think about that, and you'd have to ask your friend who's the surgeon, where she was in your bedroom. You saw somebody hunched over and then go down,
Yeah.
like somebody falling having a stroke.
Yeah. Maybe she was coming into the room and stroke and then because he
Yeah.
said she was pinned between the bed, the wall, and a pile of stuff.
Mhm.
And you know how my bedroom's laid out. The only spot that would make sense to have a bed is where our bed is now.
Yeah.
So it was either coming into the room or around the opposite side between the bed and the window and the radiator and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But that does make sense now.
Yeah. Um, do we want to do these last 2 or save them for the next episode?
Yeah, we are like an hour and a half past
Yeah.
past. Um, Maybe we save them. I think this is a good spot to stop. We'll
Yeah.
save. We have some a werewolf, a Christmas werewolf topic, and another from Welsh lore that we could talk about too, and then we could talk about some. New Year's
New Year's.
creatures and stuff. So
Mhm.
that will be in 2 weeks, which would put us where? Let me see.
30th, 31st.
Yes, yes. So we actually that is what, New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Maybe we do a Monday night show on the 30th. We'll let everybody know what day we actually choose, or maybe we do that Thursday night afterwards, because it's going to be
Hmm.
too much running around on the holiday. I'm going to be gone, I'm sure, on New Year's Eve. But if I'm
We'll just
around, we'll do it. I don't know. And if
we'll see.
anybody else
We'll
is
let you
around and
know.
listening, yeah, we'll let everybody know. But we'll cover these next 2 topics, and we'll also talk about another New Year's creature, and some other things too. But I apologize we didn't get to the last 2 because we went on our our personal conversations again, but always a good time.
Mhm.
Let's see. I want to get to some of these questions. Do you think your house was built on a Native American property? Very possible, but I don't know 100%. Sage the whole house. We've burnt sage in the house and everything, and I wouldn't say that anything, knock on wood, I wouldn't say anything is malevolent or dark per se. My wife, all the kids, actually last Christmas, a week before Christmas, our dog Rocket passed away. And my youngest daughter, Kaylee, I don't know if it was the day after or 2 days after, she's walking into the kitchen and she said, "Mommy, Rocket's in here." And she said she
Aw.
saw Rocket. Yeah, she said she saw him walking around the peninsula coming into the living room,
Aw.
which breaks my heart. I don't even want to think about it. I love that dog.
Yeah.
So yeah, she saw him and she was 100. Even now, it's just, I saw him,
Yeah.
you know. Um, Maddie, obviously, like I said, she heard someone and was talking. Lily still would say that she sees little things. Like she says she sees a little being that
Mm.
would like jump between our rooms in the hallway and stuff like that. But she used to see an old woman in the farmhouse too, crouched in the corner of her room, and she still has like recurring dreams with
Mhm.
this woman, which I think is kind of weird. Actually, today, as a matter of fact, Leslie and I were in the studio because she was helping me go through boxes of samples that I need to photograph for one of my clients. And she was in the back area where my couch is, going through the boxes. And I'm sitting here talking to her, and I get like literally hit in the face with a whiff. And I called it like old lady soap because it smelled like ivory soap, like really strong smell of ivory, like bar soap, bath soap.
Mhm.
And I just called old lady soap because my grandmother used to use ivory all the time, and it just reminded me of her. And we used, or not ivory, but Dove soap. And I mean, we use Dove too, but um, yeah, I just got hit with this big whiff. I mean, it was like I'm sitting here talking to her, and all of a sudden it was like, like somebody has the bar right in my nose,
Mhm.
super potent for like maybe 2 seconds, and then nothing. And my wife's like, "Oh, well, geez, I thought I just it's my strobe light." I just kind of looked, I saw something black in the corner. Like, ah! Got myself freaked out. But yeah, it was like boom, super potent. And my wife is like, "Oh, is it my deodorant?" And I'm like, "Well, no, it's not. It's definitely not you. Like, it's not."
Yeah.
She had a completely different um
Same.
smell than what I smelled. So I don't know, man. It's weird shit has been happening. Again, my anxiety has been kind of up and down with a lot of shit I have going on work wise and everything. My stress levels are up. So is that an attributing to it? I don't know, but I don't know. Weird shit off and
Yeah.
on.
I just hate the fact that you leave your bathroom door open while we do the show, and I constantly look right past you at that bathroom door waiting to see it move.
Yeah, I know. I watch my back a lot,
Yeah.
and you halfway through the show, I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the hell? I kept seeing like a shadow popping in and out from behind your head, but I didn't realize you had your arm up and you were moving your right hand.
Okay.
And it was, I guess, no, your left hand, I guess, your opposite hand. Yeah, when you had it up. Yep.
Yeah, see there?
Yeah. Yeah, because I was like, "What the hell is that?" But it was more to the is that your left arm or your right arm?
It's my left.
Alright, so it was more to the left of your head, between the Nessie poster and your bookcase on the door. I was seeing something move, but I knew it was your yeah, there it is, right there.
Yeah, I
Yep.
was moved over more
Yeah,
in the
because I'm like,
seat.
"What the hell is that?" But then I was like, "Oh, it's your hand," because I saw your arm moving then. I was like, "Oh."
Plus, I keep seeing reflections because like I said, this one faces directly in front of me, faces out to the woods, and the other two face to the woods. But I can see the road if I look hard enough on an angle in either side window.
Yeah.
So I will catch the headlights of a car in the window in front of me that's reflecting it back at me, and
Yeah.
it looks like it's in the woods, and I'm like, why is there a light in the woods? Why is there a light in the woods? And then I realize, oh, the reflection. And then when
Uh-huh.
if I'm here by myself doing the show and the porch light is off on the left side of my room, it is so creepy because I always feel like there's somebody staring at me from outside. And of course, my freaking wife occasionally will actually stand out there and
Nice.
stare at me while we're doing the show, and I'll look over and I'll see her, and you'll see me go, and I realize it's her standing out there in the
That's
window.
rotten. That is rotten.
She actually put curtains up, but I just refuse to close them. But yeah, she'll just stand out there staring in the window, and I'll be like, "Why do I feel like somebody's" and I'll look over my shoulder, and I won't catch it at first, so I'll do one of these. I'll be like and she'll smile and walk away, and I'm like, "Kill
That's
you."
nice. That's nice. That's love right there.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see, there's a couple more comments here. Cindy, do you have any objects, items from another haunted place or site that perhaps something has an attachment to it and followed you, or perhaps a spirit already there and won't leave? I am a collector of anything and everything, from witchcraft to paranormal to ufology, anything strange, weird, or unusual, antique. I have so much shit. I don't have anywhere to go with it. Chad, you could attest to that. You've been
Mhm.
here plenty of times. I'm running out of space in my studio. I just collect everything that strikes my fancy. So there is a very good possibility that I have something in my house that has an attachment, but honestly, I've had weird shit happen to me all my life. So I can't really say for certain if it is anything in particular that I could attribute this to. I don't know. But it's possible. It's possible. Um Yeah, we opened up another can of worms. Yeah. So, yeah, that is it. I have nothing else. We will continue the other two stories, like we said, next show on maybe the 30th, maybe the 31st,
We'll
maybe
let you
after the
know.
new year. We will let yous all know for sure. Hopefully, you guys get the notifications, and to that point, you could find us on Facebook and YouTube live every other Tuesday. Like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, comment under the show like everybody has been doing tonight, and we will do our best to answer any questions you have or comment to your comments. You could check us out on our website, explorersgroup.com, on X at Explorers Group, on any of the major podcasting platforms. And while you're there, give us a 5-star rating and comment and interact. I know one of our big spots that I actually upload to is Spotify, and you could comment on there and leave us messages, and we will get back to you there as well. Anything to help boost us up in the algorithms. We are working on getting on TikTok, so we will be streaming live off of TikTok as well. As soon as I get my kid to set us up on that, we'll be live on 3 platforms and possibly 4. We're also trying to get us onto Instagram live,
Hmm.
trying to get us out at as many outlets as we can. Share the show with your friends. Like I always say, share it, share it, share it, share it. Get us out there, help us out. We do all of this out of our own pocket. We don't ask for a penny from anyone. All that we ask is you share the show, give us some positive reviews, and tune in every other week. So that's all I got. If we will not talk to you guys until after Christmas. So if you celebrate, have a very, very Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, enjoy it. Chad, thank you as always for tuning in and helping with the show and just being my best friend.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Uh, thank everybody for watching. Like Les said, enjoy your holiday, whether it's Christmas or Kwanzaa or Yule or
Hanukkah.
I'll be lighting my menorah later.
There you go. There you go. All right, everybody. Good night. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. And we will see you sometime in 2 weeks. We'll let you know. Take care.